Hey gang, you're watching the Commander's Brew on YouTube. If you like what we're doing, please hit subscribe. It means a lot to us. If you love what we're doing, check us out at check us out at patreon.com/commandersbrew. That's what I'm looking for. With me is Zack Taylor today, and we're going to be talking about a super cool deck that he brought with us. That's Tatyova Infect. Okay, Zach, you brought Tatyova Infect for us to talk about, do a little deck tech on. So I have the deck list in front of me. I'm looking at the deck, and this is a cool deck. This is it's Tatyova, Benthic Druid. She's the commander. We all know Tatyova, 3 green, blue, 3/3. Merfolk Druid. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, you gain a life and draw a card. That is just pure value
for sure.
But what are you doing with this deck?
So with War of the Spark, so many like new proliferate cards came out, and just there's so much you can do with it. And a lot of people are like, oh well, let's make Super Friends decks. And I'm like, okay, I mean, I can kind of, but I want to do something a little different. And now apparently in proliferate multiplies infect tokens on other players. So if I can get somebody once, or each player once, with one infect token, I start proliferating like crazy, and I win. And
Yeah.
this deck's a little different for me because it's a lot of ramp, and it's a lot of green creatures and just attacking, which these are things I've typically not done in the past. So I'm definitely excited to finish building this and play it.
Yeah, it's an infect deck, but just looking at it, there's a couple of cards that are like just good anyway to maybe close a game up, even if you can't get the infect plan going for everybody. It seems pretty spicy. What do you say we kind of break things down and get into some neat moves?
Working on a
Neat.
Sure. Yeah, my favorite neat move from this deck is Awakening of Vitu-Ghazi. It's a 3 green for an instant that says put 9+1/+1 counters on target land you control. It becomes a legendary 0/0 elemental creature with haste named Vitu-Ghazi. It's still a land. So I think that card's pretty cool. I think it's even cooler if you put it on Inkmoth Nexus, which has Infect.
Oh, that is a neat move. Inkmoth Nexus. It's hard to say. It's that one that it's a colorless land, but you can pay 1 and it becomes a 1/1 artifact creature with flying and infect. Brutal. And then 9 on that
Makes it exactly 10.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wait, but does if it says it becomes a 0/0, which wins?
So what it would be, you would oh man, Ryan and I talked about this and figured it out. So you'd have to animate it first. No, wait. No, you do Awakening of Vitu-Ghazi on it first.
Yeah.
And then you turn it into the Inkmoth
1/1.
Nexus, and then that gives it. I believe that's correct. If it's not, people can hit me up on Twitter and let me know.
That sounds right. So you do Awakening first, put it on 9 counters on a land that is 0/0. But then you turn that land into a 1/1 with 9 counters on it with flying and infect. That's brutal.
Yeah,
wow.
And I love that it just automatically has flying. And if you really need to get the guy through, you can do like Rogue's Passage or something, so they can't be blocked.
Ooh, and this is like, it's astounding that it puts exactly 9 counters on it. Like it's like they made it for Inkmoth Nexus.
It's true.
Oh wow. And of course, we're probably going to proliferate. One of my favorite new proliferation engines, we've talked about it before, is Evolution Sage. And not only is Evolution Sage so good, this is the 2 and a green, 3/2, whenever a land enters the battlefield, proliferate. Tatyova's also drawing us cards. So now playing lands says, draw a card, proliferate, gain a life. That's I love this card. I think it's so great. Of course, Flux Channeler is in there too. Whenever you're casting non-creature spells, you're also proliferating. Awakening of V2 for example, that's a non-creature spell. Yeah, so like you're gonna knock one person straight out with that V2 Ghazi on an Inkmoth Nexus, but all you gotta do is chip into some other players for one Infect, and they're gonna get it up. What's one of the neater ways to get one counter on somebody?
Well, let's see. I'm looking through the cards. I definitely like. Where is it? Triumph of the Hordes. So it's 2 green for a sorcery. Until end of turn, creatures you control get +1/+1, gain trample and infect. So if I can get some of the bigger guys out, or some of the flyers even, with evasion of some sort, or anything with invasion, just push it in with that trample, even if they get blocked. Like, I think Rampaging Balos is going to be great for that, because I'm definitely ramping, so I'm definitely going to have some 4/4 green beast tokens that are going to want to get through.
Yeah, pretty good. That is a neat move for sure. I also think, like, if you're gonna do any Infect deck, anything that really loves proliferating, I know you've got Inexorable Tide here, 3 blue. This is one of the top. Whenever you cast a spell, Flux Channeler only wants instants and sorceries. Inexorable Tide don't care. Inexorable Tide will count everything.
Yep, and I definitely like the idea. So I have Vivian Reed as one of the Planeswalkers, and her...
the new Vivian, right? Champion of the Wild?
Oh, yeah. Yep. And her stack ability is creature spells can be cast as though they had flash. So with that and the combination of, like, Wilderness Reclamation, and there's another card that gives me mana. Sort of Feast and Famine, untapping stuff, like... I expect to be able to flash in some pretty big creatures, hopefully, so before people can deal with them. Like, I think that's going to be pretty sweet. Originally, Rolesk Apex Hybrid was supposed to be the commander for this.
Okay, I noticed Rolesk is still in the 99 here.
He is, or she is. I'm not sure which. I respect Rolesk's privacy. Yeah. But drawing cards was kind of a problem. And I was like, well, I am ramping, so... Tatyova seemed like a good commander, and kind of like hides what I'm doing, because I know like the Commander Central guys built a Rolesk Infect deck, and that's what I kind of based this on, like that. Or I got the idea from. Another super cool thing I think that I have is Eric Smethy's The Slumbering Isle.
Yes.
Which, I've wanted to build something deck for this card for a while. So it's 2 green blue. It's a legendary creature, Kraken. It's a 12/12 that says Eric Smethy's Slumbering Isle enters the battlefield tapped with 5 slumber counters on it. As long as Eric Smethy's has a slumber counter on it, it's a land. It's not a creature. Whenever you cast a spell, you may remove a slumber counter from Eric Smethy's. Then you can also tap it to add blue-green. So it definitely is a land, which is nice. But I'm going to be casting a bunch of spells, so those counters are going to come up pretty quickly. And if they don't, I have a Thespian Stage to copy it, so I can pull the kind of Dark Depths business with it.
Oh, yeah, it's kind of Dark Depthsing it.
So I'm definitely excited to try that. I think that's going to be fun.
Wow. So, okay, let me think this. So if you Awakening of V2 Ghazi onto Thespian Stage, then Thespian Stage becomes Erixmathes, will it be, will it have 9 counters on a 12/12?
I think so.
Or does it lose the...
Well,
man, I gotta look this up.
Yeah, I think it would keep the counters.
But would it lose the ability? It would have the ability still, right? It doesn't take away ability.
Thespian's, yeah, it says it's still land, so I don't think it would take away Thespian Stage ability to copy something. I think that works.
I think that works too.
Yeah, Sean and I say it works, so it does.
You know what?
Get wrecked.
Yeah, you're listening to this episode. If you're playing with us, that move works.
Right.
I love Varel of the Hullclade in here. I think Varel is so cool. 1 green-blue legendary human merfolk, 1/4, green-blue, tap, double the number of each kind of counter on target artifact, creature, or land. We're talking 9 counters on lands. We're talking it doesn't work as Infect counters on players, but like we're gonna get the counters. We haven't talked about all these, but Rolesk themselves puts 2 counters on somebody. We can start proliferating that. There's a couple of Hydras in here, most notably Phyrexian Hydra, 3 green for a 7/7 with Infect, and whenever it's dealt damage, you put a -1/-1 counter on it, so it sort of has a reverse Infect. You kind of have to Rogue's Passage this one through, but throwing counters on it is fine.
Yeah, I definitely like. I've got Moru Loyal Companion. Like, I've drafted this card so many times because it's just so awesome. Like, double whatever one it gets 1+1/+1 counter. It like you get double that. So yeah, if you're putting 3 on there, it's like, oh my bad, 6.
My bad. Yeah, every proliferate trigger becomes 6. That's incredible.
Yeah, another card I thought about adding, and I just didn't because I don't want to buy another one. But Deep Glow Skate. It's a flying creature that doubles any token type. I'm just like, yeah, that's pretty sweet.
Does it work on players for the Infect counters?
I believe so.
I'm looking that up. It's not currently in the deck list. Deep Glow Skate. When Deep Glow Skate enters the battlefield, double the number of each kind of counter on any number of target permanents.
Are we I don't think that would work then. I don't think so.
We're not permanents?
I mean, we should be.
I guess if you think about it, you know, we are given one life, and it is not permanent, and we must make the most of it and spread as much joy as we can because it is not infinite.
This is definitely true.
So we are not permanents, but everything else is.
Hydras are.
Hydras are permanents. Yeah, Nissa will live forever.
Right.
Dak Faden will live forever. Oh,
it's coming back.
Wait a second.
Yeah. Oops. Man, I've seen so many memes of that Eternal Gain Dak. It's just hilarious.
Poor Dak Faden. That guy has a tough go, I think.
Yeah, definitely. Did you read the War of the Spark book?
I did not read the book. No, did you?
Yeah, I read it. Like, it's got a lot of hate online, but like I enjoyed it. It was fine. It wasn't like, you know, Quantum Theory or anything, but it was enjoyable, right? And definitely like they like kind of like Dak was doing this, and Dak's thinking about that, and Dak's dead. And I'm like, oh, so I was just starting to like Dak.
Yeah, I mean, to anyone who thinks the book is bad. Like, we all knew it would be bad. Like, this is not going to be like New York Times bestseller list kind of thing. Right. It's not like Pulitzer Prize winning. It's just a book about the magic story. I mean, to be fair, if anyone's upset, I would assume it's because there's such a rich story going on. They would want it to do it justice, but, you know, you take what you can get. I think it's pretty fun.
Yeah, I mean, it was a nice read. Like, I read it in like an afternoon or something, and it definitely focused on like Teo, which I thought was interesting. That white planeswalker, but
yeah, I don't know anything about Teo. Dude loves shields.
Yep, dude is into shields.
yo, don't go talking to Teo for too long, because once he starts talking about shields, you cannot get out of that conversation.
Better settle in.
Settle in. If you do this symbol, I'll call you on your phone so that you can say you have to take this so you can get out of there.
Nice. We'll have that plan. If we ever see Teo.
Yeah.
Man, some other cards that I finally found a place where like I wanted to build something with Pure Imaginative Rascal and her friend Toothy Imaginary Friend for a while, and like I think they fit pretty well in this deck because of how they interact with the counters. So Pure is like a 2 and a green for a 1/1 legendary creature human that says if one or more counters would be put on a permanent your team controls, that many +1 of each of that kind of counter are put on that permanent instead. So that's like a Mowu kind of effect.
Well, and then it's like double. If you have Mowu, then Mowu's putting extra on top of that.
Oh, geez. That math seems too hard for me. I got to remember never to have those 2 cards in play at the same time.
I mean, it brings into question who is Pier's better friend. Is it Toothy
Right?
or is it Mowu?
I don't know. Toothy gets +1/+1 counter whenever you draw a card, which is pretty good.
Yeah.
And when he leaves the battlefield, draw a card for each +1/+1 counter. That's pretty good too for 3 and a blue.
Yeah, especially with Tatyova, you're going to be throwing counters on there so far. You just need to make sure you don't deck yourself. Toothy's ability is not a May, so if you have more counters on Toothy than you have cards in your library, you will lose if anything happens to Toothy.
I did think about this when I was building it. If I should put like Lab Maniac and the new Jace that we refer to as Labman Jace in here as well, just in case.
Yeah. Jace Maniac. Oh, cool. I like the inclusion of so these kind of decks. We're gonna have a few Infect creatures. One of my favorites is a Blighted Agent. It's 1 and a blue. It's a 1/1 with Infect. It's unblockable. This is a great way to get your first Infect counter in, and we're going to start proliferating it after that. But sometimes your opponents deal with these creatures. So I love when there's ways to get stuff back out of graveyards. So obviously, Eternal Witness is a classic for this. 1 green, 2/1. When there's battlefield, put any card back from your graveyard to your hand. So that's what I'm all about. Like, send them in. Don't worry about them. We're going to get them back if we need to.
Yep. Love Graveyard Recursion.
Have to have it.
And I love this Herald of the Streams. It's 3 and a blue for a 2/3 Merfolk Warrior that says creatures you control with +1/+1 token counters on them can't be blocked. So definitely trying to, throw down some counters on some infectors.
Oh, goodness. Yeah. Well, and then what about, Spinebiter, 4 green for a 3/4 Infect. You may have Spinebiter assign its combat damage as though it weren't blocked. So, it does, maybe they chump, well, they can't chump it. Even if they put a 10/10 in front of it, it'll give Infect counters over. And if you've got extra counters on Spinebiter to begin with, there's another way to potentially get a one-hit kill on somebody. Oof. Spinebiter's pretty ugly. I like them.
It's pretty sweet. And I've got Rancor in here too. For the recursion, I think creature gets +2/+0 and has trample, so that helps damage get through. And plus, if that creature dies, hey, you get Rancor back.
Oh yeah, that's the best. Put it on some more Infectors and get those through. What's the thing that makes? I noticed there was something here earlier that makes Infect tokens. What was that?
That's a good question.
Oh, no. That's not what I'm thinking of. It was a green creature that, based on the number of poison counters your opponents have, it puts out tokens that are Infect little assassins.
It's Phyrexian Swarmlord.
Ooh.
For 4 and green, it's a Insect Horror. It's a 4/4 with Infect. At the beginning of your upkeep, put a 1/1 green insect creature token with Infect into the battlefield for each poison counter your opponents have.
That to me is the best Rancor target. Those little insects, because then, of course, kill them, block them, chump them. Don't care. Rancor comes back. It's coming back at you.
Yep. Yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff in here. I really can't wait to play this.
Yeah, so this is, do you think this will be the next deck you put together in IRL?
I believe so. I definitely have gathered up all the cards I have for it already and made a list of the ones I need to acquire. So, and it's honestly for the kind of decks that I build, this one is kind of on the lower price end. So I feel like I'm going to build it pretty soon.
Let's talk about price then. So as our guest, we're not going to adhere you to any budget. We've since relaxed our strict budget restrictions, but we like to keep an eye on things. So what are some of the most expensive cards in this deck? This whole deck, when does it come in? It comes in about $250, just under $250.
Yeah.
That's still fairly reasonable for a commander deck, I think.
I think so too.
the most expensive card that I can see here is probably the Sword of Feast and Famine. That's almost $50 these days.
Yeah.
That's the sword that costs 3. It equips for 2. It gets +2/+2 and protection from black and green. But the key thing is whenever it deals damage to a player, that player discards a card and you untap all your lands. That's the best part.
Yeah, thankfully our intern T.H. Elliott gave me that for my birthday the other day, so I'm not gonna have to get one of those. Oh, thanks, man.
Yeah, I know you've got Wilderness Reclamation though, which is another. I mean, if all you care about is the land part, I mean, the rest is great too. But I mean, to save, what are you saving on this one? You're saving $42 to
Right.
put it. So I think that's a fair one if you want to cut a bit for budget. We're under $200 then.
It looks like Song of the Dryads is $14.99. Like, honestly, that card could be cut too. It's and I may actually cut it myself. It's basically removal, right? So it's 2 and a green for an enchantment. Enchant permanent. Enchant permanent is a colorless forced land.
Yeah, I like Imprisoned in the Moon as a backup to this. That's the blue one that basically does the same thing.
Ooh.
Is it permanent? It might only be creatures. Let me see Imprisoned in the Moon.
Let me see.
It has to be a creature, a land, or a planeswalker. So it's a bit narrow. You can't get enchantments with it or artifacts with it. But for the most part, creatures, planeswalkers, maybe a land. Like, that's the stuff I care about a lot. Obviously, this is why it's only... it's already $2. Anyway, way cheaper. Bit narrow, but I don't mind that. I know you've also got Lignify in there. It turns a creature into a 0/4, which is a similar thing to do. I think Inkmoth Nexus is another expensive one. That's 23 in here.
Yeah, so that's what I'm seeing too. Thankfully, again, that's one I already have. So
yeah, you gotta keep that in there. That's like I would want, like, as far as I'm concerned, Awakening of Vitu-Ghazi and Inkmoth Nexus is the neatest move. So you need to have those in, I think.
Yeah, it's just so cool. We were doing like our set review for War of the Spark, and like we brought that card. We were talking about that card, and it just like hit me. I was like, oh my gosh! I was like, I've got to do that. Like, that's so awesome.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think that's pretty much it for the super expensive cards. I know Inexorable Tide is like 7-ish, but I think that card's worth the $7.
Yeah, all that proliferating.
Yep.
Gotta have it. Would you say when you put these together, we always like to do a surprise and discovery segment? Like, is there any stuff that, like, cards you didn't think about that surprised you, or cards that I always like to highlight any cards that I forgot existed until I put a deck together, or cards you never knew existed and like, this was perfect here.
Vorel was one that I'd never heard of.
Oh,
and
wow.
I was like, that's pretty sweet. And then I don't know why I didn't even think about it until you mentioned it earlier, but Plain White Celebration seems pretty good.
Yeah, getting Plain White Celebration to me, that's the one from War of the Spark. It's 5 green. You get to kind of choose 4, but you get to repeat. I don't really care about the 2/2s. I don't care about getting life. I'm really interested in getting stuff back from my graveyard and proliferating.
Yep.
So, like, being able to proliferate 4 times could just be the win if someone's at 6. Or if you've got a few Infect creatures in the graveyard, if they've already dealt with them, that's a great way to get some of those back as well. Presumably we've got the mana because we're Tatyova. We're going to be putting a land out every turn, I suspect.
Yep. That is definitely going to be happening.
Cool.
I think Guardian Project, I've never played it, but I think it's going to be pretty sweet for EDH. I want to see it's 3 and a green for an enchantment that says whenever a non-token creature enters the battlefield under your control, if it doesn't have the same name as another creature in your control or creature card in your graveyard, draw a card, which this is EDH. We only have one of, so always going to be drawing a card off of that.
Yeah. Ooh. Do you know what, Zach? I got to say, this deck seems cool. I don't have an Infect deck, but if I'm going to build one, it might be something like this. What I love about this is, so you've got Tatyova, so you're always going to be in the game. You're always going to be drawing cards, doing that, which I love. But you also have Varel of the Hullclade, who in itself is a good commander. And with Varel, you're going to want a lot of creatures with +1 plus counters, which we're having anyway. So if you have Varel out, you get to play it like a little sub-commander deck of the Varel deck. Same thing with Rolesk. Like, you got all these other angles going on here that aren't just Infect, but that's certainly a way to go. Any deck with a couple of angles is one that I enjoy.
Same. Yeah, it's just like, it feels like there's multiple ways to win. Not like Infect being the coolest, but like really get down to just attacking, putting creatures in the red zone. I think I can.
Yeah, and it's not like a typical Infect deck in that it's not looking to just overrun you with like pump spells. So like if they deal with a creature, they kind of 2-for-1 you with those pump spells. But it's just like, no, you're just going to go for that inevitability of Infect or just giant creatures anyway. This is
and
fun.
I've definitely seen that happen. Like when I played Modern, like I used to play Modern real heavily, and Infect was the deck that I played.
Okay.
And you'd like pump up some guy with a bunch of stuff, and it'd just be like some just cheap black removal, and it's like, oh, well, that worked for nothing. So I was definitely trying to stay away from that here. I think the only real one pump spell is like Rancor, and then I guess the Triumph of the Hordes, the kind of overrun Infect card.
Yeah. I mean, I don't mind Rancor because you can get it back. You will get it back all the time. Yeah. Oh, you can't even chump. If a 3/1 insect with Infect, you can't even chump it. Because, like, I mean, I guess you have to chump it with a 1/1 token. But, like, if you have a 0/4 wall, who cares? Like, it's a 0 and -3/1 wall.
Yep.
It ain't doing nothing anymore. Man. Cool. Well, that's the majority of the deck.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Yeah, thanks for coming on and talking about this deck with us. If you think this deck is cool, if you got any neat moves in it, let us know in the comments below.
Sure.
What's your coolest Infect move you have out there? Big thanks to all our patrons who make these episodes possible.
Yeah, and if you want to check out more comedy videos, check out our Brews News playlist.
Make sure you follow us on Twitch TV to see when we play live.
If you want to chat with us, head over to Twitter. We're at Commanders Brew.
And please hit subscribe to ding the bell and find out when we got new stuff coming out.
See you next time.
Bye.